In episode 3, Owen swims down the river, finds an embankment that he can climb out of, sees a couple people and starts asking them for directions, but realizes, wait, I recognize you guys. I recognize all of you guys from the hotel. He realized that this must be what Nyland was talking about. All three of them joke with him that they're legal attachés, which is supposed to be what Owen's cover is, but he tells them, no, I'm actually a lawyer. Their question to him is, well, then why did someone try to kill you if that's the case? And he says, I never said somebody tried to kill me. I said I got mugged and I jumped into the river. Owen then gives a description of these two people that, quote, mugged him. And right away, the three, quote, legal attachés know exactly who they are. They're still pretty reluctant to believe he's a lawyer until he asks for directions on the way back to the hotel. One of them shakes her head and says, man, you really do suck at counterintelligence. You can't go back to your hotel. That'll give those two assassins another shot at killing you. That's something that Owen hadn't even thought of, but he's dripping wet in clothes. He has to change. He runs to a store, grabs a sweatshirt, and then uses their phone to call up Max. He asks Max who tried to kill him, thinking that maybe she would have an idea, and she asks them, well, who did you meet with? It's probably them. Owen's not ready, though, to just give her more information that she can use against them. Max gets on edge pretty quickly, and when Owen tries to calm her down by saying if everything goes well at the hearing, she'll be transferred to a federal facility that day, she gets even more angry because the demand wasn't to go to a federal facility, it was to be released. She tells him that if she's not out of there in 2 days, she's going to start naming names, and then she hangs up. Shortly after that, Owen hops on a plane and heads back to the United States. He doesn't even stop at his apartment to change. He heads straight into the office to meet with Nyland. When Nyland sees the state that he's in, he actually feels bad for him. He offers him a fruit roll-up, saying, my kids love these. And it turns out Nyland has 5 kids, so that guy gets to work in and outside of the office. Owen then gives a quick update on what he learned in Vienna, how Max does in fact know a lot, and Nyland tells him to go down and make sure nothing goes wrong at the hearing. After the meeting with Nyland, he finally has a chance to go home and relax for a little bit. As he's heading to his car in the parking lot, he runs into Lester. Lately, Owen's been feeling super paranoid, like somebody's out to get him or everybody's out to get him. He hops into Lester's car and asks, is this normal? And Lester says, yeah, basically. Nothing's ever what it seems at the agency. Everybody's out to get you. Owen follows up by asking if anybody from the CIA would ever kill him, and Lester says, well, not on U.S. soil. That's too much paperwork. But they can search your apartment for any reason at any time. With this fresh in his mind, when he arrives home and sees a little bit of a messy apartment, he immediately freaks out, thinking that his apartment was turned. But then he sees that Hannah and Terrence are fine, and it was just they had a party. That's it. After he starts to relax about the fact that his apartment wasn't searched by the CIA, he sees the subpoena note, and he says aloud, I gotta take care of this today. That's when Terrence says, oh, I forgot to tell you, I know someone named Sarah, and she works in Senator Smoot's office. She's a staffer. She's actually the contact name on your subpoena. Believe it or not, that girl drinks like a fish. That gives Owen an idea. He asks Terrence, hey, can you text Sarah and ask her if she wants to go out for drinks? I'll tag along and try to charm her into nixing this subpoena. Terrence says, sure. And they're going to meet the next night. Owen, though, has to get to the airport because he's got to get to Phoenix to deal with Max's case. So he throws on one of his last remaining suits and flies out. 5 hours later, he arrives in court, but he's surprised, though, because right before it starts, he sees Kelly, the girl from the motel, standing outside, waiting to go in. He's a little confused because he wasn't expecting to see her here. And that's when she tells him, well, I'm here because of something that happened to my dad. He was murdered. It's at that moment that Owen realizes Kelly's dad was murdered by Max. He doesn't tell Kelly. In fact, he actually lies to her by telling her, I'm just here to file a motion upstairs. He waits for Kelly to go inside, and then he follows a little bit later, just sitting in the back. And court is quite a scene, because when Kelly finds out that Max is not going to trial, she flips out. Doesn't change anything. The judge signs off on the government taking over Max's case. Seems like everything has gone great until Max gets up, looks at Kelly and says, I'm sorry for your loss, but your father was a piece of crap. That causes Kelly to lunge at Max. It's so bad Kelly has to be restrained. So they're going to send Max to a federal detention center. And right before they do, Owen gets a chance to meet with her. The first thing he does is give her a little bit of advice, not to provoke the grieving daughter. If Max gets killed, all of this goes out the window. Max doesn't even pay that advice any mind, just telling Owen that she needs $500 in her commissary account. Now that she's changing prisons, she's losing her burner phone. She needs to buy a new one. Owen reluctantly agrees to this and then heads back to the motel. As he's heading over, he decides to call up Amelia and schedule that date. It's ironic because Violet is standing in front of Amelia when she gets his phone call, trying to tell Amelia that when she does have this date, if she gets any information that maybe Violet can use against Owen, to pass it along. Amelia assures Violet that she will, but when Owen calls, she doesn't tell Violet that Owen's on the phone, actually lying to her, saying it's somebody else. With Violet out of the room, Owen and Amelia set up plans to grab drinks when Owen flies back later that night. Owen does feel bad for Kelly, though, and with a few hours before his flight, he swings by the motel to check up on her. Luckily for him, she's sitting outside just like she was the first time they met. Kelly tells Owen that the cops claim her dad was doing criminal stuff with Max, but she's convinced they're wrong. After saying he's sorry for what happened to her dad, he gets ready to fly back out. Meanwhile, Max is transferred to that federal prison. The first thing she does when she arrives is ask her roommate, where can I get a burner phone? Her roommate points her in the direction of a woman named Cora. And just as fate would have it, Max knows Cora. She walks up and tells her, I need a burner phone with international minutes. But Cora isn't exactly thrilled to see Max. She blames Max for even being in there. Because 3 years ago, Cora came to Max as Max ran a sort of B&B for people looking to stay away from the police. You could only stay 2 weeks at the most. And while Max didn't exactly have a sunny disposition, Cora did. She was friendly. She was personable. And she was able to break through Max's hard exterior. In short time, these two developed a little bit of a friendship. They talked about life, how Max can't really go home. They even talked about Max's daughter, who she lost. Max liked Cora so much that she broke her 2-week rule. She would only let guests stay for 2 weeks, but she let Cora stay an extra week. And that's when things turned south. Cora met a guy and invited him back to the apartment, which was a no-no, completely against the rules. And not only that, but this guy was a complete and absolute scumbag. There was no bigger example of this than Cora's black eye, which he gave her. When Max saw him, she demanded that not only he leave, but Cora leave, and gave them an hour to pack up. When Max came back an hour later, the whole place was trashed, and there's Cora, bloodied, beaten, and in really, really bad shape. In order to save her life, Max took her to the hospital. Because she was wanted by the feds, it didn't take long for them to find her and put her in jail. That's why Cora blames Max for what happened. Cora doesn't know, though, that Max is in jail because a little while after that incident, as Max was filling up at a truck stop, she saw the guy. She walked up to him. He didn't recognize her at first, but then he did. And that's when she beat the hell out of him, bashing his head in with a tire iron. At the time of the attack, Sarah's dad was holding a bag full of money. Even though Sarah doesn't think her dad was into some shady stuff, he clearly was. Max didn't know this, but when she checked the bag and saw the money, she took off with it. So that was the thing that she took that didn't belong to her. When Max sees Cora for the first time in years, she doesn't tell her any of this. She's pretty cold to her, actually. They agree on a price, and Cora says, all right, but we're not friends. And Max just says, we never were, and walks away. So now Max Melodze has a phone, and she can get in touch with whoever she wants in jail. That includes Owen, who's arrived back in D.C. and heads straight to Amelia's place to pick her up. She's not a huge fan of his outfit, so she lends him one of the many men's suits that she has. Yeah, she's a little bit of a freak, in a good way, kind of. And then, by sheer accident, Owen sees what Amelia really wants to do with her career. She's bored out of her mind doing what she's doing. She wants to be an analyst for TV news. So she practices every single night in her house, hoping that one day she can land an analyst role. Tonight, though, she's just hoping to land some of Owen. So the two head off to dinner. They start chatting. And while they try to keep work out of it, it's kind of impossible. Owen does have a few questions for her. The biggest one being, how do you get the feds to drop a murder case? Amelia tells Owen in order to do that, you have to go to the Attorney General of the United States. He's the only one that can sign off on it. She tells Owen just to send his office an email saying it's a priority one and someone will reach out. They then get a little bit of a surprise because Hannah just so happens to be at the same restaurant, and she's on a date. They try to keep it really cordial, they try to keep it friendly, but it definitely is a little bit awkward. So much so that Amelia right away can tell the two dated. Owen explains the situation and Amelia's cool with it. She just wants his undivided attention. The two continue to have dinner, and when it wraps up, they're even kissing outside when Hannah walks out and sees it. Owen, though, wasn't doing this to try to make her jealous. He didn't even know she was there. He invites Amelia out to the bar because he still has to meet with Terrence and that staffer from Senator Smoot's office. But instead of coming, Amelia gets so turned off that he made other plans that night that she just goes home on her own. That's when Owen turns around and sees that Hannah is standing there, alone. Owen asks Hannah if she wants to head to the bar with him and meet up with Terrence, but she says, no, I gotta get up early. So Owen heads over to the bar solo. He meets up with Terrence, and sure enough, he has delivered the staffer from Senator Smoot's office, and as advertised, she does in fact drink like a fish. Right away, she tells Owen, I'm here to party, I'm not here to talk about your subpoena. But Owen persists. So she tells Owen, just give Smoot dirt on your boss, enough to destroy him. Then the subpoena will go away. She lays out exactly what will happen if the subpoena goes through, how he'll have to hand over every single thing he's doing that requires classification. And if there's anything that he's working on that's remotely shady, they'll completely blow it up on live TV. It doesn't really seem like Owen has a ton of options here. And right after she explains this, speak of the devil, Nyland calls Owen, demanding that he get in there right away. They're heading to Lebanon. By they, I don't mean Owen and Nyland. No, I mean Owen and Lester. Lester has a contact over in Lebanon, a mercenary, complete and total badass, but also a deadbeat dad. He owes a lot of back child support, and he hasn't paid for it. He also has a big mouth that revealed to his ex-wife a lot of secrets regarding national security. She's now threatening to blow the lid off all of it if she doesn't get her child support. Lester has tried to tiptoe around the issue, asking nicely, but none of that's working. So Nyland is sending both Lester and Owen over to Lebanon to deal with the matter. On the way over to the airport, Owen gets a phone call from Max. He asks Max what he can expect in Lebanon, but she quickly changed the topic to what the guy in Vienna's name was, the guy he met with. Owen is super reluctant to do that, but Max pleads her case of why she needs to know and why he can trust her. So Owen describes the guy, and right away, Max knows exactly who he's talking about, Xander. She tells Owen, I call that guy Pastry King, and I have a lot of dirt on him. She then quickly goes over what he can expect in Lebanon. He hangs up, gets to the airport, and hops on the flight with Lester. Lester isn't too happy that he has to do this with Owen. He tells Owen, you asked earlier if anybody at the agency will try to kill you. Well, the guy we're going to visit, Dave, he's the hitman they call to get it done. Owen then changed the subject to his meeting in Lebanon. He asks Lester if he knows about Xander, and Lester says, I just know he's super ambitious. He's got his eyes on the Moscow station, which is the holy grail of assignments, but one blemish on your record, you can kiss that post goodbye. When Lester finds out that Xander is connected to the gray mail case, he tells Owen that right there is just the sort of thing that can torpedo him. Hours and hours later, the two arrive in Lebanon. They head over to the hotel, but they're not the only ones in the room, because Dave, the hitman, is also there along with two members of his team. He found out they were flying in, and he decided to greet the two at the hotel that they were staying at. Dave is as advertised. He's very intimidating. He also takes it super well when they ask him to sign a piece of paper that says that they will garnish his wages in order to get his ex-wife the child support she needs. He takes the form and tells him, I'm just going to go back, read it, and bring it back signed. As Lester and Owen wait for Dave to bring back the signed form so they can go home, they grab dinner. While making chit-chat, Lester tells Owen how him and Violet met, because clearly there's a real connection there. Violet was the one that convinced Lester to join the general counsel's office. He met her at an army base in Germany. She was there as a JAG. She was tired of the army. She convinced Lester that being a lawyer was the only skill worth having in the CIA. So she helped him with online law school. He helped her learn about the agency. But he also doesn't seem all that happy with the career. Maybe it was the alcohol talking, but Lester starts complaining to Owen about how he's this golden boy. Really, it's jealousy. First week on the job, he got sent to the Senate and he found this gray mail case. But Owen says, no, man, I'm just good at what I do. And Lester doesn't see it like that. He thinks Owen's just lucky. Doesn't seem like there's really any hard feelings, though. The two finish their meal. They head up to bed. But right before they settle down for the night, there's a knock at the door, and somebody left the papers from Dave. Although he didn't exactly sign it. And it's going to force both Owen and Lester to head over to Dave's hideout and convince him to sign it the next day. That's really where Lester sees Owen's skill set. Dave tries to convince the two to leave without a signature, but Owen convinces him because he lays out exactly what would happen to Dave if he doesn't sign it. how he would be thrown in jail, how he would be blacklisted, how he would never work another day in his life. Well, Dave doesn't want to sign the piece of paper. The scenario that Owen lays out doesn't really give him a choice. So he reluctantly puts his John Hancock on the piece of paper and sends Owen and Lester back to the United States. This trip did a lot for Owen and Lester in terms of bonding. Lester has a newfound respect for Owen. When they get back, it's pretty obvious to Violet that the two are now suddenly boys. But when they get back, Owen has an unexpected guest. It's the Attorney General. He didn't expect the Attorney General to actually show up in his office, but the Attorney General says, well, you did say it was a priority one. Because he doesn't want to waste the Attorney General's time, Owen quickly goes over what he had to talk to the Attorney General about, Max's murder case. All the Attorney General really cares about is the optics of letting a murder suspect go in an election year. But Owen hammers home just how much information she knows and just how dangerous it could be if she leaked that information. So it seems like the Attorney General is suddenly on board. But while Owen is trying his best to get Max out of prison while she has so much time to kill in prison, she decides to start trying to get some revenge. Now that she knows that Xander was the one that met with Owen in Vienna, she sends him a little gift. Xander is obsessed with pastries, so she looks up the top pastry place in Vienna, orders him a special cake that when he gets it, there's a note attached that says, "Got ya, motherfucker." Signed, Max. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.